Alrighty, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newest episode of the Krysis Korner. This is where we talk to interesting people on the internet. Today, my first guest of 2020. We're starting the year and the decade off with a bang, ladies and gentlemen. He is a streamer and a YouTuber, content creator for the org Dark Zero, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Mr. Get Flanked. Flanked, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be on this side of the mic. Usually I'm the one giving the interviews and, doing what you're doing right now. So it's a little different to be on this side, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's why I wanted to interview you because honestly, if I have to be 100% honest, your Pro and Potato podcast interview series that you do, that's kind of the inspiration behind this. What I'm doing here is finding people that I find interesting on the internet, whether they be content creators, level designers, video producers, and kind of talking to them about life on the internet because it's still kind of a new thing to make your living off the internet, right? Like a lot of people still don't see YouTubers and Twitch streamers as real job having people. So I kind of wanted to take those people that I find interesting and entertaining and kind of talk to them a little bit about their lives and kind of how they got into what they're doing now. So you're honestly, your series is kind of an inspiration behind this, and I'm ripping off your idea for clout. So
nah, it's just an interview, man. It's nothing that crazy. I'm sure lots of people have done it.
But like I said, you are a Twitch streamer and YouTuber so far. As of writing everything down, your Twitch is 33k followers, and YouTube 427,000 subs. You focus mainly on Rainbow Six, but you've kind of dabbled in like Call of Duty and stuff in the past and everything. And again, you're content creator for Dark Zero. But first things first. So if I remember correctly, and this could make me look incredibly stupid if I'm wrong, but you served in the army, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank God I don't look like an idiot. First of all, thank you for your service. I don't feel like we thank our veterans enough for the sacrifices that they make. But secondly, you look at a job like content creation, and then you look at military. What what are some of the key differences, and are there any similarities in between having the super structured military life? Because us who don't serve see it from the movies. You're getting yelled at, you're getting screamed at all the time, and then people think of content creators and it's like, oh, they wake up at noon and wear pajamas to work. Like, are there any similarities in between the incredibly strict military lifestyle as we civilians see it versus the incredibly laid back style of content creators?
There's a lot more differences than similarities. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, obviously being a content creator, my engine is creativity. And one thing in the army is you don't have that. You don't there's not a lot of room in the army for creativity, at least not at my rank. Now I served one contract. It's not like I was ever a general or anything. And I'm sure as the higher you rank up, the more creativity and the more of your ideas you're allowed to think and use. But at a lower rank in the army, yeah, you're pretty much just doing what you're told. So that's, I mean, obviously the number one difference. Every day I wake up as a content creator, and if I don't create something, then I don't earn. That's kind of the way that you look at it. And I have a little bit of a different approach or viewpoint of content creation. I just actually put out a tweet right before we started this talking about all the content I've created this week. Like I consider Instagram, I consider Twitter, I consider everything really that I do under the Get Flanked brand is content creation. Whether it's literally just sending out a tweet saying, "Hey, I ate spaghetti and meatballs today." That's content creation. It might be poor content creation, but that's content creation. So, that's probably the number one thing is it's that's the polar opposite is how much I use my creativity and what I'm doing now versus the army. But on the other side, it is that go to work attitude. Like I wake up every morning at 7 a.m. And that's probably a big difference in a lot of content creators out there. It's a late night kind of gig that seems like content creators, gamers in general are almost like nocturnal beasts. So I wake up every day at 7 a.m. and I put my son on the bus and I go to work. And I usually spend the first half of my day doing content creation, whether that's for my brand on YouTube or whether that's for Dark Zero. And yeah, so every day I'm creating. But I think that, th- some of the things that I learned in the army about waking up early, starting the day off, with, trying to get things done early before lunchtime. You want to try and get a lot of things done. That's kind of my approach that I've probably learned from the army.
Yeah, going to your comment about the nocturnal lifestyle. I mean, as a Siege Pro League fan, it's kind of a thing that NA players get ripped for is waking up at noon, between noon and 3 o'clock p.m. and they're like just getting ready to start our day, and it's like, homie, I've been up since 7 o'clock. Like, what?
Hmm.
You know, but that is incredibly interesting that you do get up like that early and start. But I'm sure having your son to get up and put on the bus kind of helps with that, and that actually
Yeah,
led.
and I think another thing that I'll mention as far as the army and military and you know uh previous work experience before content creation, having like, serious jobs that I had before content creation is it's given me an appreciation for what I do now. Like I don't want to like make any content creator out there feel like bad about their job or anything like that, because I know some people like do consider this work, but for me, I'm on vacation, and March will be 2 years that I've been full-time content creator. And that's like I consider myself, I've been paid to be on vacation for the last 2 years. Everything that I do, I would do this for free, and I have done it for free. And I might not do as much of it because I wouldn't have time to do as much of it if I couldn't do it full time. But I think, having my experience in the military and, real jobs gives me an appreciation for being able to make a living doing something that I'm truly passionate about now. And again, not to take anything away from other content creators, but there are some people obviously younger that kind of work their way into it that haven't had that experience. And I don't know that they fully appreciate what they're able to do and how they're able to make a living compared to going to a job that you really don't care that much about and that really doesn't fulfill you, like content creation does.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a few streamers that I watch that constantly say, like, hey, this is the dream job. They're like, I fully understand that this is an incredibly blessed opportunity to have because everybody doesn't have this opportunity to do what they love and have it be financially stable. Um, so it's good to hear that you've kind of stayed humble to that idea that it's like this is kind of the dream job. You have worked, you know, normal traditional 9 to 5 jobs in the past, and it really does seem like you've kind of kept that the humbleness and the just kind of kept your wits about and you remembered where you came from. So 2 years is what you said you've been full time as a content creator, right? Well,
Yes.
this March will be 2 years.
Yeah,
Okay,
this March will be 2 years.
okay, because that actually leads into my next question, which was, um, a lot of people want that full time content creator job. A lot of when I was growing up, I'll be 30 in March. Oh, God. When I was growing up, kids wanted to be doctors, lawyers, NFL players, stuff like that. Now kids want to be YouTubers and Twitch streamers and just content creators, but they don't understand the grind that it takes a lot of times to get there. And there's also a lot of risks. Your standard 9 to 5 job, there isn't a lot of financial instability, whereas Twitch could shut down tomorrow. So when you decided to go full time, what were some of the risks you had to weigh, and like, how did you figure out like, okay, the cons definitely are outweighed by the pros here, and these are risks that I'm willing to take to become a full time content creator.
Uh, that's a great question because I'm in a little different position than a lot of people. I'm in my mid 30s. I have a family. I've got real big boy bills that I have to pay, and so for me to make the decision and trust my financial security upon something that is as fickle as content creation, YouTube, and gaming, it was a tough decision. One that, I weighed a lot, and one that obviously I had to make sure that my wife was comfortable with. And it was a gradual process. I was starting to make money, obviously off of the YouTube, and it got to the point where I was making the vast majority of my money off of YouTube, but I was spending the vast majority of my time at work. I had 12-hour days where I worked, meaning like from door to door, it was 12 hours. I had an hour drive each way. And then like a 9-hour work day. So yeah, it was close to 12 hours door to door. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, that amount of time that I'm spending is providing me with this much money. This amount of time is providing me with this much money, so this doesn't make sense. And, after, 6, 7 months of stable income and, really good growth trajectories, it gave me comfort in making that leap. But I mean, it is what it is. Like I honestly, I said whenever I did it, if I get 1 year out of it, it'll be worth it. And I obviously did. I'm going on 2 years and I hope to get many more, but I realize it's not going to last forever. Like I know that 100%. And I think that a lot of the experience that I'm gaining through Dark Zero, doing a little different stuff as far as social media and stuff like that is really good. Hopefully that could lead to something down the road because I know for a fact, like I'm not going to be a YouTuber and for the next 20 years. That's not going to happen. It's just not the way YouTube works. YouTube is so based off of momentum, and there may be people out there who can make it work for 20 years because their content's that good, they're that creative and whatever. But I can already see it with me. Like, it I I probably grew faster last year than I will grow this year. And that doesn't make sense because I've got, a bigger channel, more views, stuff like that. But it just like, my content's not for everybody. My content's more of an analytical. It's not like a really easy to digest content. I mean, I'm a really opinionated person. So some of my content, rubs people the wrong way. And I get that. And, it's fine. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of risk with it. I guess to make the decision, I accepted that risk, and I did it. I didn't do it like the first time I got a paycheck for $1,000 from YouTube. I didn't jump and ship. It was several months and several thousand, dollar checks from YouTube before I made that jump. And it's worked out so far. And at this point, I just feel like I'm playing with house money. It's not going to last forever, but very few people in their mid 30s get a 2-year vacation, and that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also good to hear that you realize that like YouTube won't last forever, and I firmly believe that as well. Um, yes, Twitch streaming, YouTube, all that's the thing right now, but not even 20 years from now, but 5 years from now, YouTube could shut down. I mean, and that's what I think a lot of people don't weigh that risk of, you know, yeah, you're a Twitch streamer now, you're making money now, but what happens if tomorrow Amazon just decide, yeah, Twitch ain't making us enough money, cut it, and then it's just gone. So it's good to hear that you understand that the risk of the online thing, but that's kind of why like I'm doing this series is because I want to get into journalism, mainly like around esports and people from the internet and stuff. So it's kind of one of those skill sets to where you have to build it, and a lot of people don't respect the grind that it takes to get there. So it's kind of good that you did make it. And I'm a fan of your content. I think you've got quite a few years left in the tank. You're basically Tom Brady at this point. I think you could go as far as you want to go.
Well, it's not even YouTube shutting down, man. It's like I mentioned before, YouTube is really based off of momentum, and when you have that momentum, it's great. But when you fall out of that algorithm a little bit, it really starts to affect things. And it's a cruel world. YouTube is. It's when you're hot, and everything's great. But when you're not, I mean, if you're not growing at a really fast rate on YouTube, you're actually dying. Like gaining 100 subs a day may sound like a lot to people, but when you have a channel that's got several 100,000 subs, if you're only gaining 100 a day, you're actually, in my opinion, kind of like dying. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's the way it is.
like I know with like my presence online, which is incredibly small, if I get like a follower, I'm like, yeah. But I understand to like someone like imagine PewDiePie, 100 million subs. If he gains 100 subs, that's literally nothing to him. YouTube purges 10, 15,000 subs from him every day, so 100 to him isn't really anything. But speaking of the algorithm and the changes that YouTube has been making, actually yesterday was your 5th year of your YouTube channel being around. I've done some
Wow.
research. I've dug in. Yeah, we're breaking out all the stats. You talk about yourself being analytical. I've done some research. So when you look at YouTube 5 years ago, obviously you weren't doing it full time, and you kind of about the halfway point hit that full time status as a creator. When you look back over your 5 years of YouTube, what has changed the most drastically, and what do you wish kind of like would change moving forward?
I mean, speak on an individual basis. What's changed for me whenever I think back to that first video that I created to now? Um, Ignorance is bliss in a lot of ways, man. Like I remember, like it's one thing. It's in some ways it's nice to make a video when you have 0 subscribers because you're not worried about anything. You know what I mean? Like I remember, like the first video that I uploaded, I still remember my mindset whenever I made it. I made it on a PS4 with a gaming headset, and I just recorded the gameplay on PS4. I edited on PS4, everything, and um, I wasn't worried like what are people going to think about this because who's going to watch it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just making a video that I wanted to make, and it was a search and destroy Call of Duty search and destroy tip video where I went through some rushing routes that have been working for me. And, um, now whenever I think about making that tip video, there is so many different things that come into play, you know, I, I've I've never hit diamond on Rainbow Six Siege, and Rainbow Six Siege is a very competitive environment, and it's an environment that's filled with a lot of really skilled players. So I'm constantly asking myself like and hitting myself with the imposter syndrome of, dude, you never hit diamond. Why are you making a tip video? Well, like, what do I do? That's the content that I love to make. I
Mm,
love making that video. That's how my mind works. My mind works in like whenever I find something in the game that's working for me, I want to share it. And in some ways, I don't even like consider it real unless I share it with the world. That's so it's tough. Like some days, sometimes I wish I could go back to the days where I could just make a video and not worry about what people think about me, not worry about what somebody's going to come in my comments and say, you're trash. That stuff doesn't get to me. I'm a big boy. I understand trolls on the internet. Again, it doesn't really get to me, but um, ignorance is bliss in that regard. And sometimes it would be nice to just be able to make the videos that you love to make without fear of what other people are going to think. And I do for the most part. I don't want to make it sound like that affects me, but it's definitely a drawback. But whenever I look at the the industry as a whole, it's gotten much more clickbait. Like YouTube, um, it didn't used to be as bad as it is now, and now with it used to be that watch time. If you made a video, it could have the worst thumbnail in the world. It could, if it was a good video that the audience stayed and watched, and that watch time got up there, then it would continue to get suggested and it would continue to do well. That's not the case anymore, man. If you don't have a click through rate as soon as your video goes live, your video is dead, like on arrival.
hmm
If your video is not clickable to your subs, then your video will not get suggested, period. Okay. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. I mean, you look at like some of the videos that go viral on the internet and they're just complete ridiculous. Like I saw a video the other day that was in my suggestions, and it was somebody who was like touring a closed down amusement park, and the guy photoshopped his body and put it on top of a roller coaster, like, hundreds of feet up in the air. And it
Right.
was completely photoshopped, you could tell, but it was getting millions of views because that was a super clickable picture. And
Mm,
that's what I'm competing with. Like, how am I supposed to make content where I can sleep at night, where I'm not feeling like I'm misleading everybody, but I'm still like competing and able to compete if my video shows up right next to that one with a guy photoshopped on top of a roller coaster, which one do you think people are going to clip on? So
right.
that's probably the biggest difference industry wide. Whenever I look at myself as a creator, I would say that the big difference is just that the bigger you get, the more problems you have, and the more things you have to think about and consider when you're making content. Um, and whenever I look at the industry, it's just a little bit more clickbait centric.
Yeah, I know, like, when I go to YouTube, one of the ways I found your channel was because when I watch YouTube, I'm usually watching it to learn something, right? Like, one of the main YouTubers that I watch, I'm pretty sure you know him, Drifter, big COD guy. Um, and he's said a lot of the same things. It's like, as someone who makes analytical videos, how can you make a thumbnail so interesting on a gun guide? You know,
Right.
how can you compete, like you said, with 56 half naked women in the thumbnail? Who's going to click on that? So um when I look at that, it's kind of, I'm the same way. It's like you look at some of these content creators that have just blown up, and it's like, why? Like, this isn't entertaining, it's not funny. It's, oh, because you've got this in the thumbnail or that in the thumbnail. But yeah, I've seen those thumbnails, and I agree with you. It has gotten ridiculously clickbaity. That's why, like, especially as a smaller YouTuber, content creator, whatever, I stopped making YouTube videos because I would dedicate time into like really good cinematic like Call of Duty videos when they did the theater mode, right? And they would get 7 views, and it's like, how can I put 40 hours of editing into this video, and so vlogs himself screaming at a bird for 15 minutes, but that's what goes viral. And like, so it is disheartening, as a smaller creator. And then, like you said, as a larger creator, you have people coming in. I've dealt with people coming into my streams, you're bad, you're ugly, you're this, that, and whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, I don't really care. But like, and you do kind of have to build this shell, thick skin, if you're gonna be on the internet, if you're gonna put yourself up there. So, it's a lot rougher than I think people think. And it's it does get to a lot of people. I mean, you hear people all the time, like, I've turned the comment section off, I've put my chat and followers only or subs only because they don't want to deal with it. And it it can get rough. But
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is that no matter how big you are, you got to do it for the right reasons. So if you love making YouTube videos, which I can honestly say, whenever I started, I just wanted to make YouTube videos, and I actually started out making like football highlight videos. I would take West Virginia football videos. This was a long time ago on a separate channel. I would take West Virginia football videos, like games, and I would cut them down the highlights and put music in the background, and that's how I started. And I just wanted to make YouTube videos. So as long as you're doing it and you love it, then no harm's going to come from it. You're going to either grow or you're not. Either way, you're doing something you love and you have a good hobby, and that's great. The problem is that whenever people start out, I want to be famous. I want to be a career YouTuber,
hmm,
and then they go out and they spend a couple of $1,000s on equipment, and they start making videos. They don't really have the passion for it. They have the passion for the end result, not the process. And that's a backwards way to go about it. And then you see all that equipment they spent that money on usually goes up on eBay a couple months later because they
yep,
don't get the immediate results, and it's unfortunate.
how I got my Elgato. but but yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, when I stream, I love streaming, and I love the idea of community. So it's like, to me, it doesn't matter if the only person watching me is my one friend who's been watching me since I started, or if I have, you know 10, 15, 20 people watching. It's I'm gonna play games anyway. Why not stream it? And if people want to come in and hang out, I love the sense of community. I'm kind of an introvert, as I think most gamers tend to be. So having that, it's kind of like, I always equate it to watching streams. It's kind of like being at your best friend's house and what like playing the Sega or the Nintendo together. Like, back when there were no real multiplayer games, it's kind of like just like hanging out and enjoying each other's company. So that's why, like, I stream, because I just love it. If I blow up and become the next Get Flanked, awesome. If not, you know, uh, that is what it is. So I think you make a good point there with the passion. It has to be there, otherwise it's just gonna flop. So speaking of streaming, when did you actually start stream? Because I tried to find like your start date on your Twitch channel and they didn't have it. But when did you
Yeah.
actually like start streaming, and what kind of drew you to the idea of streaming?
So I don't know my exact dates, to be honest with you. Like, I originally started streaming on YouTube. Well, if we want to be exact, the first time I ever streamed, I think, was on Justin TV
Oh man,
back in Modern Warfare 3. I got a one of those Hopog HD, what were they called? HD PVRs? Is
yeah,
that what they were called?
like, yeah,
And
the hot bug. It's like just
yeah,
big black box.
yeah, I still
Yeah,
have it
yeah,
around somewhere, but that was the first time I ever streamed, and I think Justin TV ended up getting bought by Twitch at some
yeah.
point. But
We're,
anyway,
we're
that was
aging
yeah, that was
ourselves here, flanked.
yeah, that was a long time ago. But as far as like the get flanked, when streaming started becoming serious, I was first streaming on YouTube, and then I decided to go to Twitch because I just felt like it was good to diversify a little bit. Like you said, if YouTube changes their algorithm, if I have a healthy Twitch, then that's something that could be and I can fall back on. And I so I started streaming on YouTube, and then I decided to go over to Twitch, do that. And after, a few months of grinding there, I got a partner. And I want to say, Well, it's been over 2 years. I want to say it's been right around 2 years that I got partner on Twitch, somewhere around in there, and yeah, so, I don't fancy myself. I'm not really happy with my quality of streams. I'm working on it. That was one of my New Year's resolutions was to take streaming more seriously, stream more often, stream more regularly, and try and create a better product whenever I stream. Because I'm a pretty emotional guy. Like I can rage, um, I can be kind of emotional on stream, and I don't think a lot of viewers really appreciate that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now with the whole streaming thing.
Wasn't was it your sub alert or your dono alert that for the longest time was like you just screaming, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah. I took that off because I'm trying to move past that. Like,
yeah,
it is what I am, and that's why I really look at like King George. I love King George because I see a
yeah,
lot of me in him. Like,
yeah,
he's not as bad as I am, probably, and obviously he's a better player than I am. But like, I get it, dude. Like, Ninja was saying something the other day. Um, this will probably be the only time in my life I ever quote Ninja. But he was talking about like other Fortnite streamers and how there's a difference in his opinion between like if I'm streaming and I just die to a bullet hole across the map and I'm like, this game is garbage. That's one thing.
right,
If I an hour later get off stream and then conduct this 10-minute long YouTube video talking about how the game is garbage, or even a tweet saying this game is garbage after the fact, that's a different thing.
right.
And yeah, I totally get that. Like in the heat of the moment on stream, I will say some things that I would never say once I collected my thoughts and once I was cool. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I think King George is like that a lot too. So I get where he's coming from.
Yeah, I had a moment of rage yesterday. It would probably pretty comparable to yours, where I went to go vault over a Goyo shield, and for some reason it collapsed, and like it set me on fire and killed me. And I almost summit 1G'd my monitor, man. Like oh, I was like, I'm done. I gotta quit Siege because I'd been playing for a few hours. Like, I gotta go. I was like, I just gotta
Yeah,
go off because this is. I was like, chat, I love you, but I'm out. Like,
yeah.
I gotta hop out of there. But so what would you say if your goals for 2020 were to like improve your stream and to up the quality of it, as you say, your words, not mine. Um, would you say that as of right now you're kind of focused more on streaming than YouTube? You
No,
kind of
I wouldn't say that. I still like. Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The vast majority of my income comes from YouTube. So I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. I'm not going to sacrifice anything on YouTube for Twitch. With that said, streaming is very demanding. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
if you're going to stream, you got to have like a 4 hour block where you really can't be interrupted.
right.
Or at least not for like long periods of time. So, yeah, I mean, whenever you stream more, like, you're taking a little bit of your focus and your time away from other things you could be working on. There's absolutely that. And there is, yeah. So I'm dealing with that right now because I am committing to streaming more. But I wouldn't say that I'm more focused on streaming than YouTube.
Well, there you go. No shortage of get flanked videos uh coming to YouTube, so that's good to hear. Because I do enjoy your videos. I enjoy your spicy takes, your strong opinion, as you said, because you do catch a lot of people in the content creation realm that are just kind of like, oh, I agree with everything that's said, whereas you're kind of like, just send Legion to the Shadow Realm. You're like, I'm tired of them. Uh, so it is refreshing to kind of get some people who do go against the grain. I kind of find myself that way, especially with the new Modern Warfare. I'm one of those like, get rid of this, get rid of that. Um, so it is good to see that kind of stuff. But so now we're gonna kind of sway away from your personal stuff and content creation, because I want to talk Siege. We didn't get a lot of chances to talk in Raleigh at the major, which was an amazing event, by the way. Ubisoft always puts on great events. But since I got you here, I got to talk to you about Siege for a little bit. So, Siege is about to enter its 5th year after the Invitational. We have the Road to SI playlist right now, which is awesome. The Battle Pass, I think, is a great idea. But looking back at Siege, because Siege has been around pretty much since started your YouTube channel at this point. Um,
Yeah.
what kind of drew you to that game and away from games that you were playing, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, anything like that? What kind of drew you to Siege? And now, looking 5 years later, what keeps you playing that game?
Um, okay, so I was primarily in Call of Duty. I was a search and destroy player. I didn't really have interest in other game modes. I would play them like warm up, but I played primarily search and destroy. So whenever I saw the E3 reveal for Rainbow Six Siege, it caught my attention, and it looked like something that was basically search and destroy on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't wait for the game to come out, and it came out. And it came out alongside a really good Call of Duty, one of the best Call of Duties of all time, in my opinion, in Black Ops 3.
Yeah.
And Black Ops 3 had my attention. I was playing a lot of game battles and stuff like that in Black Ops 3. So I played Siege through the beta and after release very, very casually. Like I never played ranked. And I didn't actually play ranked until Velvet Shell. Velvet Shell was year two, and for some reason, I think it was because Infinite Warfare came out.
Yeah.
That was a very bad Call of Duty, in my opinion. After the first couple of months, I just completely lost interest. So I started, playing Siege more and more as I was playing Call of Duty less and less. And I really, once I started playing ranked, it just hooked me. Because I'm a competitive person. I played sports, growing up, and as you go older, you get less of an opportunity to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Siege gives me an opportunity to compete in ranked. And that's what really hooked me once I started playing ranked. Now that was on PS4, and then Operation Health comes out. I ended up getting a PC, and have been playing primarily on PC. I still go back and forth some, but I primarily play on PC since then. So what keeps me playing it now is, just trying to get better, man. I mean, like I said before, I've never hit diamond, so that's always a goal that I have every season, and I've never been able to achieve it yet. So every season, I'm trying to improve and get better. And yeah, I've always been the type of person like I remember playing like intramural basketball and stuff in college, and like I was the type of person. I remember telling my teammates this that if we just went out there and just rolled a team, like they didn't even put up a fight, I was bored. And I told him before, like, I would rather lose than play that game because at least when you lose, like, there's like there's like something that like gets going inside. You're hungry to get better. You're driven to like you want to play them again or whatever. And yeah, so I feel like that's me with Siege right now, and it has always been. I've never hit diamond. I've never hit champion. I've never been considered even in the top tier of players. So I'm always trying to get there, and that's kept me interested. Alongside that and content creation. I mean, I can't lie. If I didn't have a YouTube channel that was centered around Rainbow Six Siege, would I play it as much? Mm, yeah, I honestly think that I don't. I mean, obviously, if it wasn't my career, I wouldn't be able to play as much. But I don't really feel that the only I can 100% tell you this. If it wasn't for my YouTube channel, I would still be playing ranked. I would still be playing Rainbow Six Siege. I just wouldn't have the opportunity to play it as much. And I'm not the type of content creator. The only reason I play this game is because I want to make a video.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched your streams. I've seen your videos. You truly do enjoy the game. Like,
Oh yeah.
and I feel like a lot of Siege players have the same mentality. This is an extreme love hate game. When you when you get an ace, there's no better feeling. Or when you clutch a 1vx, there's no better feeling in Siege. But when Ash whips around the corner at Mach 56 and headshots you and then keeps going, you're kind of just like, I don't want to play anymore. like,
Yeah.
it,
Well,
it's but
there's such a skill variance in this game. Like
yeah.
sometimes you can just like come up against that player who has learned how to use Ash and just is you got to give them credit. Like they are really good with them, and they
Mhm.
just slap you in the face, and you just look at that and you're like, I'm not there, man, and I might not ever be there, and
Right.
it can be discouraging. You just want to like walk away and be like, screw this game, you know what I mean? But you got to give credit where credit's due, and you just got to keep grinding and try and figure out ways where you can deal with that, and realize that's not every player. Yes, you're going to run into that player every once in a while, but there. I mean, one thing that like helps me is like this SI playlist, for example. There was very loose matchmaking in there. The
Mhm.
matchmaking, and when you're used to playing ranked, where the matchmaking is very strict, you go in there, and I was just slapping kids. You know what I mean? And there were people in there where I was probably that player to them. They were like, I slapped them. They're like, dude, this dude's an amazing. There was, there were like several games where I was dropping like 17, 18 kills. And you got to remember, like, as much as you might go into rank and get slapped, like you're doing that to other people. There are other people who, you're above. So it's just Siege, man.
Yeah, I'm a very middle of the road player. Like, I'm man enough to admit that I don't deserve to be Diamond and Champion because I'm not there skill wise. So it does happen. Like, I'll go into a casual match and drop like 15 kills, and I'm like, "What am I? Is this T Hunt? Like, why is it so easy?" And then you realize it's like, "Oh, I just beat up on a bunch of like level 15s. This is okay." Like, I kind of feel like a bad person now. But, uh, so you've never even hit Diamond on console?
No, no. I mean, I really only played ranked exclusively on console for what, one season, one
Hmm.
full season. Um, as soon as I started getting serious about the game, I was like, okay, I gotta get PC. The problem on console, a lot of mouse and keyboard users, even back then.
Yeah,
And so you would get up. I was solo queuing up into platinum, and then after I would get into platinum, I started noticing more and more mouse and keyboard users. And I was just like, you know what? If I'm going to take this serious, then I want to get on PC and level the playing field.
yeah.
And that's one of the best things about PC is, yes, you deal with hackers, but generally you're going to get your MMR back from them now, and a lot of times they're very blatant, so you know that you just got beat by a blatant hacker. And everybody's playing on a level playing field for the most part.
Yeah, it's one of those. If I want to play against mouse and keyboard kids, I'll just go to PC. That's what drew me to it as well. It was like because I was a very high platinum player. I was usually plat 2, plat 1. I did hit diamond once on Xbox, so mark that down. Better than get flanked on console. Um, but yeah, it was kind of just like I noticed the same thing. The more I played, it's like okay, you get into that plat 2, plat 1, and it's all mouse and keyboard players. And now playing on PC and going back to console every now and again, you can really tell like who's aiming with a mouse on console, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's one of those kids. So I did the same thing. I was like, if I'm gonna get shot at with kids using mouse and keyboard, I want a mouse and keyboard. So I got a PC and started playing. I'm still bad at the game, but I love Siege. It's like I've been playing since the beta, and I've been playing it ever since, and I cannot stop playing it. Like I'll go through phases where I'm like, I'm not really feeling Siege right now. Like I've been playing the new Modern Warfare. It's really good in my opinion with a lot of things. Does some things I don't like, but uh, I've gotten back into Siege here like the last two couple weeks, and I was like, man, I've missed this because there's just something so good. Every round's different. Like
Yeah,
you're not gonna play two rounds the same. And now with the pick and ban system, you can try to be tactical, or you can just ban Jackal and Echo every time.
yeah.
But so more R6, Dark Zero. It's the org that you signed with the to be a content. You're also a social media guy, or you do social
Yeah,
media stuff for them.
let's just say that I'm a content creator for Dark Zero, and a large part of the content that I create goes up on social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last year there was a lot of drama between content creators and orgs. We won't go into naming names, but Dark Zero kind of broke out into the R6 scene out of nowhere. They picked up what was once Flipside and then SK became Dark Zero, if I remember correctly. There's been a lot of NA shifts. Uh, so with you get an org that's pretty much brand new. What kind of made you decide like, okay, as a content creator, I'm gonna sign with an org, and not only am I gonna sign with an org, I'm gonna sign with an org that's brand new, doesn't really have any reputation, and and go and be a content creator for them.
Well, so you mentioned that Dark Zero picked up the flip side, and then SK roster. So that was always a really talented roster within NA, but
Mm,
an under supported roster in my opinion. So once Dark Zero picked them up, they picked up what was a really talented roster and then provided them with the support that they needed to take the next step. So I recognize that potential in the roster from the second that they picked that roster up. I mean, that was always a roster that performed well and was just on the cusp of being one of the top 2 NA teams pretty much every season. Um, so my first interaction with Dark Zero was Zach, the CEO, reaching out to me to kind of do a pro and potato episode with uh, BC as part of the launch of the Dark Zero brand and the launch of the org. Okay,
mm,
so this was before they announced, and I had, I agreed to do it under NDA of not like, revealing
Right.
that this actually existed. So I did it. And then my Pro and Potato episode with BC kind of synced in coordination with their launch. So that was my first interaction. And, speaking with Zach in that interaction, I got, a very early impression of him, as well as, I had interacted with BC before. It's always somebody that I really respected. Jordan was also brought on board with the org launch. Bacon,
Hmm.
former coach of EG, was brought on, and that was also somebody that I knew and respected within the industry. So, obviously my eyes were on them at that point, and then
Right.
interacting with Zach also gave me a pretty good impression. Fast forward to them making a roster change. BC goes from coach to player. Again, I kind of reached out and they wanted to use my platform to kind of announce that, and I was happy to get that story. So I interacted with them again in that scenario. And then at the Invitational last year, BC was featured in part of the Invitational like highlight. Remember they highlighted certain
Yeah,
people
yeah,
within the
yeah.
scene. He was one of the people. So Zach was there, Bacon was there, BC was there. We all kind of hung out, watched some games, had some drinks. Again, got to kind of interact and get like a personal relationship developed. And at the end of the day, I've always wanted a primary focus of my channel has always been to bridge the gap between the casual player and the competitive scene. Because my firm belief is that if you take a player who plays Rainbow Six Siege casually, if you can make that player a fan of Pro League, that player will play this game for a long time. And that's good for the game. That's good for me because they'll continue watching my
Hmm.
content if they're playing the game. And, it's just good for everybody that's involved. So, as I'm thinking about how can I do that better, I'm thinking, okay, let me maybe get involved with an org. What org do I want to get involved with? I had a personal relationship with some of the people within Dark Zero, and I didn't want to just like sign up and be a streamer. And whenever I stream, there's a little symbol down on my screen that says Dark Zero. I wanted to actually be involved with the org and, actually feel like I'm making a difference within the org. So, and speaking with Zach, he was happy to give me that opportunity and I went for it.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet Zach very briefly at Raleigh during the Dark Zero signing. He seemed like an incredibly nice person. Got to talk with him a few different times just in passing. So he does, and he genuinely seems to care about the people on the roster. Um, he was there taking pictures of the signings. He was really involved, and you don't really see that too often. The guy from Space Station, he's really involved as well. But like, you looked at some of the other orgs that were there, and again, not gonna you know throw people under the bus, but there was no like higher up involvement in their signings and their booths and anything like that. And it's kind of just like, how are you going to have this roster and expect people to like and follow this roster if you're not even putting in the time to hype up your own roster? So from the very very limited interactions I had with Dark Zero, the group that was there, and Zach himself, he seemed like an incredibly nice guy. So but yeah, that makes sense. It's like being a content creator, like you said, you do always see the streamers that have like the little thing down in the thing, and it's like, don't forget, use code whatever for 10% off. But like, they're not getting a cut of that. That's going to the company. So it's good to see Dark Zero, and recently, your boy Roy signed with Dark
Yep.
Zero as well. So it's good to see this org start to bring in content creators and hopefully use them. Like you said, they kind of used your platform for like announcements and stuff, and it's great to see content creators get that kind of support from bigger orgs, and especially newer orgs, because a lot of times newer orgs don't treat their people so great. So I like Dark Zero. I think they're a great team. Like you said, SK, flip side, always a top three. I mean, they were on the edge so many times, but there for a while it seemed to be like EG Rogue, and then now Dark Zero's just always at the top two. I mean, they performed pretty well in Japan. They performed kind of decently in Raleigh. But I'm interested to see how they do in the Invitational. I think with the roster changes, bringing Eclipse on, I think that's pretty interesting. I was a Rogue fan for a long time, so I got to watch a lot of Eclipse. And it makes sense. Who else would he go to but Dark Zero?
Yeah.
I honestly think that Dark Zero has a really good chance of performing well in the Invitationals. But So one more actual question here, and then if we have time, I want to try to get into some invitational predictions. But you brought up earlier your love for West Virginia University football, which by the way, we're gonna need the name to that YouTube channel because we gotta see that. So it's well known you're a fan of traditional sports. Anybody who's followed your social media has seen you at the West Virginia games and stuff. I'm a Michigan fan. Go blue. Um, and I'm a fan of esports. When you look at, we'll call it quote unquote traditional sports, uh, their athletes are like they're so hardworking. Look at the time they're putting in. Then you look at esports athletes, and everybody's like, oh, they just sit around and play games all day. I firmly believe esports athletes are athletes, and they put in just as much time, maybe even more than your quote unquote traditional athlete. Now, Olympiads, completely different. We're not talking about Olympic athletes here because they do some training on some crazy levels. But compared to like your NFL players, your Major League Baseball players, stuff like that, do you consider esports athletes on the same level as like you would consider traditional sports athletes? As far as
uh,
like the respect they should get for the hard work they put in.
you, okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yes, relative. It's relatively yes, they should, but I still firmly believe that esports as a whole, especially Rainbow Six Siege, is on the ground level. So if I look at um, a linebacker in the NFL 50 years ago, and I look at a linebacker in the NFL right now, the linebacker in the NFL right now is a much better athlete than the linebacker and the average linebacker in the NFL 50 years ago. Does
Mm-hmm.
that take anything away from that NFL linebacker 50 years ago? No. But the fact of the matter is that it is much tougher and much the standard in the NFL right now compared to 50 years ago is much higher than it was back then. Okay. So again, I'm not taking anything away from the people who played in the past, but it's a tougher process now. And that's kind of how I feel with esports. I mean, I can tell you wholeheartedly, like part of the things with me being involved with Arc Zeros, I went down to the team house. I got to see their daily lives for a couple days. Trust me, those guys are working hard. Okay. They are working really hard. And it's not just like they sit down and game all day. Like they're doing dry runs. They're doing stuff that the average video game player would find so boring and dry. Like and then it's scrimming, and their scrims aren't like, hey, let's go in and try and beat this team. Their scrims are like structured scrims where they're going in there saying, we're going to play the same site 12 times in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and we want you to do this. It's like a scrim that's not nobody even cares who wins. It's just a
Right.
matter of we want to work on this. So I've seen their work ethic. Their work ethic absolutely deserves the respect that um, any athlete that's playing at a professional level should get. With that said, I think that when we look 10 years down the road, we're going to see the sport has progressed to the point where, kind of like the analogy I'm making with the linebacker 50 years ago and the linebacker now, it's just a much different thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I consider esport athletes to be athletes. I know that the ones who perform at the top either have a lot of God given talent or they have worked really hard. Ones who perform at the very top probably have a little bit of both. And, you know, that with that said, they get all my respect in the world.
Yeah, like I said, and obviously it's relative. I mean, esports players aren't getting blasted at 50 miles an hour by 280-pound linebackers, but like you said, it's a lot of grind. It's a lot of quote unquote boring stuff that I wouldn't want to run archives on border 12 times in a row. You know what I mean?
Right.
To get the strat perfect, but that's what these players do, and that's why I feel like they deserve the respect. I've always been of the mindset it's like, look, if you're an athlete, you deserve the respect that any other athlete would get relative to their field. And again, they might not be out bench pressing 500 pounds like a weightlifter or anything like that, but they are putting in the time and they deserve the respect as professional athletes. Um, so uh, it seems that we kind of agree on that one, and I think that's what most gamers would kind of agree with. So, how are we on time? Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. So I kind of want to go through invitationals a little bit. Group stages. I got it pulled up here. So we look at the groups, and first of all, were you shocked that G2 got the invite? I mean, come
No.
on. Like,
No, there was nobody else that could have gone to.
no.
No, they had the best case.
And I'm of the mindset that if you win a major, whether it be the Invitational or the other major that happens, you should get an invite back to defend your title. That's just my mindset. Like Empire won Raleigh, they should get a chance to go to the next one and defend. Get rid of the quote unquote invite spot and just give it to the person that won the last time. Of course, that makes the argument, well, they're not going to try as hard then. Well, they still have to perform well. They can't just get lazy, and then all of a sudden crank it up around major time. That's my opinion. But we look at the groups, and going back to Dark Zero Group A, Empire, Zero, FaZe, and Fnatic. That's a tough group. That is because that's the only one with someone from every region, right? I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, look at that group, and this is a fact. Two of those teams will not be making it out of the group stages.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you look at it like that, that's insane.
And when
So,
you look,
I mean, you look at Empire. Obviously, Empire is the best team in the world right now. So let's say that they make it out of group stages. Dark Zero, Fnatic, FaZe. Only one of those teams is going to make it out.
mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting because Dark Zero played Fnatic in the group stages at Raleigh and beat them. They also played FaZe at the group stages at Raleigh and did not beat them. However, Dark Zero did beat FaZe at Japan. Now FaZe was playing with a substitute then, so a little bit of an asterisk there, but nevertheless, they did beat them at a LAN most recently. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Also, I would also keep in mind that the last time in Milan, Dark Zero and Empire played first round, and that match on Bank went to round 15, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like nothing's a given there. That's the
no,
group of death, and it's earned that name. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
that's the group I'm most interested in watching. Like the other ones, like obviously I want to see how G2 does and stuff like that. But uh, Group A, I firmly agree with you. That is the Group O death. You're talking four teams that have established themselves at lands. Dark Zero, the up and comers, the front runners in NA, and they have been for the last couple of seasons. Team Empire, who nobody can touch. FaZe Clan, they've got their full roster now. They don't have that asterisk like you said. And Fnatic, who have been pretty much at every land since in the first Invitational when they were mine free.
Yeah,
So
they weren't at Japan, but that was really the only one they missed in a long time.
right, so you're talking four really established rosters, and like you said, it's crazy to think that Empire will probably make it through, but only one of Dark Zero, FaZe, or Fanatics coming through. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's was it Nyx that who did the interview when they found out that they were in Group A? It was like
Hot and cold.
Hot, and he was like, "What's Group A? That's your group." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that was. And then we have Group B, Navi, Rogue, which is the former Giants roster, and TSM and Space Station. This one, this is your EU versus NA. Um, Rogue's been talking a lot of smack on Twitter here since picking up an EU roster. And then, did you see the was it the TSM that was like last time we played you guys, or last time we beat you, you guys had to go buy a new roster or something like
Yeah.
that? As good. So what's your predictions for Group B?
Well, I mean, obviously, Rogue, that roster has not performed well at LAN ever. So we'll see if that trend continues, even though they're under a name and org, uh, then I would have to count them as one of the teams that's not going to make it out. Navi, I mean, they just won a LAN. I would say that Navi is going to make it out, and then between TSM and Space Station, that's really tough because both of those teams are like shining stars for NA as far as LAN performances. Obviously, Space Station just won U.S. Nationals. That was a good LAN run for them. They also made it to the finals of the Oga Pit recently. So I would probably have to favor Space Station coming out. So if I was going to pick two, I would hope as an NA fan it's going to be TSM and Space Station. That would make my dreams come true. But if I'm picking two teams, I'm going to pick Navi and Space Station.
Yeah, I agree. I think Navi hasn't. played as well in the just starting, pro league here. But it's the very start. You can't really put a lot of credit into that yet. But Space Station outperformed everybody's expectations at Raleigh. People forget how well Space Station played at Raleigh. I mean, they were everybody's fan favorite. They were the invite that people said they shouldn't even be there. It should have gone to someone else. Then Space Station shows up and like made it out of groups and then actually performed pretty well. And now they have Canadian, someone who is a former world champion, a former pro league champion coming in. I gotta agree with you, man. I think Space Station comes out of the group with Raleigh or with Navi. Again, as an NA boy, I would love to see my boy Geo come out with TSM and perform well, but Space Station's just so good, man. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. Then we have Group C, Giants Gaming, which was Arrowwolf, so a little bit of flip flopping there. We had Rogue go from NA to EU, and then Giants go from EU to APAC, which is interesting. Ninjas in Pajamas, Team Liquid, and MIBR. 3 Latin America teams in this one, plus an APAC team. Do you think Giants stand much of a chance
No,
against 3 Latin teams?
no, and they also lost Mentalist, which was one of their best players. I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah, I mean, so I will say Airwolf Giants is out, and then I would probably I'm gonna go with MIBR and Liquid to come out of that group.
Yeah, I think Liquid's kind of been on the rebound here. They won DreamHack Montreal. Um, they won Atlantic City technically 2 years ago now. And they've been itching to kind of get back and, be a real contender. They haven't performed well at some recent lands. They, kind of flip flopped around a little bit. But I don't know much about MIBR. I got to be honest, I don't watch a lot of Latin America. But from what I've heard, MIBR is nasty right now. Like that's kind of the team you don't want to go up against. Um, so given that, I agree with you. I don't think Giants stand a chance. APAC just doesn't get the chance to play against Latin America teams. Latin America style is just so insane. They just do stuff that no one's ever seen before. So I gotta kind of agree with you. I think Liquid comes out for sure, but it could be Nip. But Nip hasn't really performed well at lands. Like if I can remember correctly, other than maybe like the Brazil specific lands, but I Team Liquid for sure. And then for me, it's a toss up between MIBR and Ninjas. Then we have Group D, Rec, Wild Card, which is another APAC team, BDS, G2. So this one for me seems a little bit more cut and dry than the other groups, but I kind of want to hear what you have to say about this one.
I would say that my two favorites out of that group would be BDS and G2. I think that Rec certainly could be up there. Rec performed well up until the finals of the U.S. Nationals, but now with the new roster, they seem to be struggling a little bit. And Rec did well. Rec was like a shining star for NA out of the last Invitational. Them and Space Station are the two NA teams that did the best last Invitational. So maybe they'll have that magic again. I really hope that they do. I love that team. Love a lot of those guys on the roster. But I just think that BDS, like G2, even though they're invite, I got to figure them the favorites in that group. I think that BDS on land is going to present a lot of problems that Rec's going to have a hard time dealing with.
See, I kind of disagree just a little bit. Obviously
It's a tough one.
G2. Obviously G2. I am a G2 fanboy. I met Fabi. I was gonna wear my G2 jersey, but I wore it yesterday. Um, but I think G2 wins out of their group. I actually think they go 2-0 and get out quick. Yes, they've had some issues. Yes, they've been saving strats. Yes, Fabian is on a media blackout. Um, but it's G2 at the Invitationals, man. They made it to the finals against Empire, who nobody touched all through Raleigh, and then took a map from them. So G2 hasn't fallen off. They've made some changes. I do think that they kind of need to pick it back up if they want to win, but it's G2 at Invite. They're gonna make it out. But I think Reciprocity makes it out. I think with them picking up Vert, I think that was a lot of aggression brought. Vert just hits heads. That's what he does. They have a lot of gunners on their team already. dropping Mark the Shark was kind of weird. I didn't nobody. It was kind of like when G2 dropped Goga. It was like, wait, what? But bringing in Vert, I think was a good one. And then they got Nyx, right? Because Skies and Nyx swap from Dark Zero and Rec. So it should be interesting. And plus they're NA. It would be against my red, white, and blue blood to go against NA. But yeah, I think it's G2 and Rec. BDS could come out, but I just think Rec, they've had some issues, but I think they'll kind of come through. So who wins it, Flanked? Who wins the Invitational?
Oh man. See, Empire's been a little bit quiet. You know what I mean? Like, as weird as it sounds, like they weren't at Japan.
Right.
They didn't have to go to Oga Pit. You know, so I I wonder, is it possible that they're going through the same thing that G2 went through, where they win Milan, they win Raleigh, they feel like they're the best team in the world, and then all of a sudden they miss a Pro League final, and you wonder, are they on a downward spiral now? If that's the case, then it would be hard to pick them. With that said, I firmly do believe that they're still the best team in the world. So it's hard to root against them. But um, I mean, you can't count Space Station out. The way that they performed recently, I think that they have the ability to play with anybody in the world. Obviously, if the Dark Zero roster can really gel, then that's a team that you can't count out. But if I'm picking a team to win it all, I've got to stay the Empire as the favorite.
Yeah, I mean Empire just got 7-1 by fours on Clubhouse last week. That's man, that's I don't nobody predicted that. Like I agree with you that Space Station could make a strong push. I mean, I see Space Station getting out of groups and at least getting to the quarterfinals. Um, Obviously, depending on how brackets work and everything else. But I honestly, looking at it right now, I think the quarterfinals are going to be Empire, Space Station, Liquid, and G2. Obviously, we don't have full brackets yet. Um, Man, I would love to see Space Station win because I want Canadian to get that world title back. I love Troy. I think he's a great guy. Met him a few times. But I can't go against G2, man. There, yes, Empire's fantastic. But like you said, they've been quiet. They haven't really made a bunch of noise lately. They're not even running away with this season of Pro League. They're only, as of today, they were 1 point above their second place, opponent. So Space Station's really strong. I think Canadian brings a lot to that team, more than I think people understand. But I think it's going to be G2. I think Fabian rallies the troops. I think Brian gets in there and starts gelling well. Um, but I think if if Kanto and Uno can frag out and really hit their shots and pull away from it, I think nobody can stop G2. I think this is the not necessarily the return of the kings of G2, but I think this is kind of where G2 they have to nut up or shut up at this point. It's like and Taro said it. They're the best team to ever play Rainbow Six. They're not showing it right now, and if they want people to respect them again, I think they have to win this. That's why I'm kind of going with G2. If not G2, I want Space Station to win. Like I said, it's NA. They're playing really well. I think Troy deserves it, and that's that's pretty much that. So, but that's gonna do it here. I don't really have any more other questions other than you recently started a new podcast, the Logic Bomb podcast, with everybody's favorite attacking operator that's getting another buff. I love Dokkaebi. So with this new one, it's you, Prodigio Pete, and Zeronic. What is gonna be this? What is the main focus of this podcast? What is kind of the thing you're hoping to achieve with this? And when can we? Is it every Wednesday? I know the last one
Yeah,
went up
yeah,
on
and that
Wednesday.
may that may fluctuate. We don't record it live, but the idea, we want to get it out midday on Wednesday. The kind of idea is we want to get you over on Hump Day. That's kind of what we all thought about there. So that's going to be the goal. But, Pete works full time. So we're always trying to work around his schedule. I mean, he's been very flexible, obviously, but,
Hmm.
that's something we have to take into account. But yeah, that's going to be the general goal to try and get out on Wednesday. I think the goal of the podcast is just to provide three different perspectives that all have different experiences within Siege. Zeronic's a very, very high level player with a lot of pro league insight.
Former pro.
I'm kind of more of like your average ranked player, I would say. And Pete, he's always kind of like on the Pete's always like really in tune with the community at large. So I think that there's three unique perspectives there, and I think that's really the goal. Is if you enjoy playing Siege and you don't have time to watch 1,000 different YouTube videos to get caught up on what's going on within the scenes. If you can only watch one thing, make it the Logic Bomb podcast, and hopefully you'll walk away each week knowing the latest news, whether it's patch notes or whether it's meta discussion. You'll have a quick update as far as what's going on in Pro League, who's playing well, and what's going on there. And yeah, that's really the big goal with it.
I watched the first episode. It was a long one, but I watched it, and I really appreciate the different opinions, because you do have Zeronic, who former pro player for Plain Ducks. You have yourself, very analytical guy, and you have Pete, who not a terrible player by any means, but he would kind of, out of all three of you, I would say he kind of caters more to the more casual community as far as skill level goes. Um, so I think you do really get three incredibly different opinions, but I think they all gel really well together. So I really enjoyed the first episode. Uh, Wednesdays are great for me because it is that middle of the week, so I love being able to just on my drive to work listen to podcasts and stuff. So I'm looking forward to more episodes. I can't wait. If you guys are watching this on the YouTube video, there will be links to not only Get Flanked stuff, but also I'll have a link to the Logic Bomb YouTube. You guys can go check that out if you want. With that all being said, is there anything else you want to promo, shout out, anything?
No, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate the work. Um, and appreciate you thinking about me to come on and sit down with you. It's been fun.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. You have a lot of content to make, a lot of fans to keep happy. So I won't keep you any longer. Again, everybody, thank you for stopping by. I know I wasn't as interactive with chat as I usually am, and alerts weren't on, but trying to keep this as professional as possible. This go up on my YouTube. Gonna try to get up on Wednesday, so I'm gonna compete with Get Flanked again. But thank you so much, Flanked, once again for coming on, and we'll see you all later.